Hi everyone, myself Dr. Lakshmi Prasad, working as an associate professor in the Department of Data Science in Institute of Aeronautical Engineering, Hyderabad. In this video, I'm going to discuss about the outcome-based education. So, very first thing, what would like to know is OBE. So, OBE stands for outcome-based education, and this OBE is a student-centric teaching and learning methodology, so in which the course delivery assessment are planned to achieve the stated objects and outcomes. So it focuses on the student performance that should be the outcomes at a different level. So OBE stands for outcome-based education, and it should be a student-centric teaching and it should be a learning methodology, so in which the course delivery as well as the assessment are going to be planned to achieve the stated objects and outcomes. It's mainly focused on the student performance that should be the outcomes at the different levels. So next one, we're going to see the guide to writing and assessing the learning outcomes. So here the National Board of Accreditation, like NBA, which can able to give the accreditation for higher education institutions in India. So NBA was established by IARE in 1994, and the NBA has full membership in the Washington Accord since 2011. So normally these higher educations are going to be classified into two tiers, like type 1 and type 2. So on the type 1 should be all IITs, NITs, central universities, state universities and autonomous institutions. And under type 2, all the affiliated colleges of universities will come. Okay, so NBA should be a full form a National Board of Accreditation. So give some accreditation for higher educational institutions in India, and so this one is going to be established by AICTE in 1994, and NBA has full membership in Washington Accord since 2011. So normally these higher education class institutions are going to be classified in two tiers, that should be tier 1 and tier 2. So under tier 1, so all the IITs and NITs, then central universities, state universities, and autonomous institutions will come under tier 1, and all affiliated colleges or universities comes under tier 2. So when it comes to the Bloom's taxonomy, so it should be a global language for education, and it is going to be frequently used by teachers in writing the course outcomes and should have a ready-made structure and list of action. So the Bloom's taxonomy should be a global language for education, and it should be frequently used by teachers in writing the course outcomes. So suppose if a teacher is going to handle a particular subject, so that particular subject he has to define what should be the COs. So for defining these COs, so he has to go through what are the Bloom's taxonomy levels. So for the curriculum, for designing the curriculum, and as well as for the syllabus. So here we are going to have different levels of Bloom's taxonomy. So the very first thing should be remembering, then understand and apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. So these are the step-by-step. We have to be see different levels of Bloom's taxonomy. So very first thing should be remember. So remember means where the students has to remember certain facts about the subjects. So we should also be recognizing and recalling the facts. So some constant definitions will be there, and fixed definitions will be available to you if a particular subject if I'm going to take. So that thing, the recognizing the facts and recalling the facts, then it should become remember. And next one for understand. So here understanding the fact means that so we have to understand some particular topic. So knowing something about the particular topic should comes under the facts. Understand level. That means understanding what the fact term means that. And next one should be apply. So apply in the sense we're going to apply the facts and rules and some concepts and ideas. So by taking an application, how these facts are going to be applied to that application, or I can what kind of rules I have to be followed as, and some like concepts what have to be considered, and what kind of ideas I have to be imposed on this particular type of application. Okay, so if once this student has completed this particular subject, so he has to apply apply this all the facts what he has studied and the rules. Like suppose I'm going to take mathematics, so many equations are available, and the concepts also have to be considered. So what kind of algorithm I can able to apply, and then idea has to put it out. So once this able the student learn all these things, then only he has to apply everything to a particular application. Next one should be analyze. So here we have to analyze in the sense, so we have to break down the information into different components. So suppose if any application is there, so that means that so this application is going to be divided into different components. Okay, so once this one is uh, divided, so we have to analyze this application. So for that we have to divide into smaller pieces of the application, what we call as components, and analyzing each and every individual components looks easy, and then finally combining all these components can able to find out can able to execute the final application. So for here we're going to have under type of step what we can able to call it as evaluate. So what should be evaluate means that we are going to judge the value of information or ideas. Okay, for judging the value of information or ideas, so here we have to be evaluate level. So once this application is executed, you have to evaluate. So all this application is going to meet that customer satisfaction, or are kind of any kinds of errors are coming, any bugs are available, like this we can able to identify. And for this finally what thing should be have to be create. So combining all the parts of that complication, and how to as a whole, and how to be create that application. Once any kind of errors and bugs, everything is the battle application all going to be resolved, and then finally we have to be build the product. Okay, so these are the some of the basic levels of Bloom's taxonomy. So very first thing should be that remember. So remember is the thing where you can able to recognizing or recalling the facts. And next thing what we are going to have should be understand. So here we're going to understand what the fact means exactly, and apply is the third level. So we're able to apply the facts and the rules, concepts and ideas to particular application. And analyzing, so for analyzing this what we have to do, we have to be broken down the information into various components. And evaluate means we're able to judge the value of information, and create means combining the parts to make as a whole. So these are the different levels of Bloom's taxonomy. So again, these Bloom's taxonomy levels will be of classified into two more levels, what we call it as the lower cognitive levels, and next one what we call it as the higher cognitive levels. So lower cognitive levels means remember, understand, and apply. So these are the things that will comes under lower cognitive levels. And analyze, evaluate, and then create. They should be higher cognitive levels. Okay. So again, this Bloom's taxonomy will be of two types: lower level and then higher level. So all the remembering, so recognizing and recalling the facts comes under cognitive. Understand, so understanding what the fact means and apply, so applying the facts, rules, concepts, and ideas. So this and all will be also treated as the lower cognitive levels. And similarly, if I'm going to see what are the higher cognitive levels, so analyze, so we have to be analyzed very carefully, so where we can able to break down the information into various component parts, and then evaluate, so evaluating the information or ideas, and then we have been able to create, so combining the parts and to make a whole. That thing should be called as higher cognitive levels. So this and all will be comes under uh, sorry analyze, evaluate, and then create. So all the three things will be created as the higher cognitive levels. So Bloom's taxonomy, if I look at this, what are the webs that are going to be fallen into different levels of this Bloom's taxonomy. So here, very first thing should be verbs, remembering. So if you look at this remembering part, so choose is the verb that comes under remembering, and then define and find, how, label, list, match, and then name, omit, recall, and then relate, and then select, show, smell, tell, etc. These and all will the verbs that comes under the remember, and all the W words what I'm getting, that should be what, when, where, who, which, and why. So all these verbs will comes under this remember level. And second thing what are going to should be understand. So for this understand means, so that let me see the word that maybe comes under this understand. Let it be classify, and then compare, contrast, and then demonstrate, explain, extend, illustrate, and then infer, interpret, outline, relate, rephrase, and then show, summarize, and translate. So these are the words that are that should be fallen under this second level of understanding. So that means the classify. So here we're going to compare the classification part, and then comparing part, or contrasting, demonstrating, explaining the things, and then extending, elaborating, illustrating, so outlining, right? So everything should summarizing under comes under the understand part. So if you look at this third level of Bloom's taxonomy that should be applied. So here the apply the verbs should be applied, and the next one should be build, and another thing what we're going to have should be choose, next construct, and also we're going to another verb that should be develop. The next one experiment, and with, identify, interview, make use of, and model, organize, plan, select, solve, and utilize. So these are the various kinds of verbs that should be fallen under the third level of Bloom's taxonomy. So that means that we're been able to apply here, and application of that one, and then building should the word also comes under apply, and choose also the thing, construct, develop, experiment, and with, identify, interview, and make use of, and then model, organize, and then plan, select, solve, and utilize. The next one should be analyze. So here, the analyze is the word that should be work unable to fourth level of Brooks taxonomy. So here you can the terms that should be forms under this analyze should be analyze, assume, and then categorize, and we're going to have classify, and then compare, and conclusion, and contrast, discover, and then dissect, distinguish, and divide. So apart from this, we are going to have examine and functions, inference, and then list, motivate, relationships, simplify, survey, take part in, test for, and think. So like this, we are also going to have some of the analyze terms as well. Okay, so here the analyze is the term that should be some of the parts will be analyzed as in assume, categorize, classify, compare, and conclusion, contrast, discover, dissect, and then distinguish, and then divide. So somewhat verbs also comes under analyze should be like examine, function, and inference, list, motivate, relationships, and simplify, survey, and test for theme like this. And next level of this Brooks taxonomy. So let's see the verbs that should be comes under evaluate here. So here the evaluate should be agree. So agree is the term that is going to have here, and a price, and assess, award, choose, compare, and conclude, criteria, criticize, and decide, and deduct, defend, determine, disprove, estimate, evaluate, explain, and the importance, influence, interpret, and then judge, justify, mark, measure, opinion, pursue, percentage, prove, rate, recommend, rule on, select, support, and value. These are the other kind, some of the verbs that should be comes under this evaluator level of Brooks taxonomy. So if you look at this, the words were enabled evaluating the expressions or evaluating formulas. Most of mathematics subjects will be comes under this evaluation. That means agree, apply, assess, award, choose, conclude, criticize, decide, deduct, defend, approve, estimate, evaluate, and then explain, judge, justify, mark like this. Well, that these are some of the verbs that should be comes under the fifth level of Brooks taxonomy. And next one, what you are going to have should be six. Last level that should be create. So here, what we are going to see should be creating the part, or like adapting, uh, and build. So build is also going to be part of this level. Change, choose, combine, and then compile, compose, construct, create, delete, design, develop, discuss, evaluate, elaborate, estimate, formulate, estimate, and then format. And some other terms that also be fallen under this one should be happen, imagine, improve, invent, make up, and maximize, minimize, modify, original, originate, plan, predict, compose, solution, solve, suppose, test, and then think. So these are the some of the verbs that maybe falls under the create level of this one. So these are the some of the webs that just now what I shown that comes under different levels of list excel. So next one, what should be the importance of this OBE? So OBE is the process that involves the restructuring of curriculum and assessment, reporting the practice in education to reflect the achievement of higher order learning and mastery rather than the accumulation of course credits. And the institution can also bring the changes to the curriculum by dynamically adapting the requirements of different stakeholders, or what we call it as the students, parents, industry, nominee, and recruiters. So OBE should be all about the outcomes and feedback. So simply, if I want to say it, okay. So the OBE is the process means we're able to involves the restructuring of curriculum and then assessment and reporting practices in education. So which can able to reflect the achievement higher order learning and then mastery rather than the accumulation of course credits. So next, the institution can also bring the changes to curriculum by dynamically adapting the requirements of different stakeholders like students, parents, industry, nominees, and recruiters. So OBE also should be all about the outcomes and then fit. So this should be the current scenario of why the OBE is important in any kind of institution. So if you look at this, so what is the importance like? See here, if the currents, if you are going to take national transformation agenda according to that, so the economic transformation program, what we call it as ETP, and new economic model is to be required for that in order to implement the national transformation agenda. And in order to meet these MQA requirements, so the program compulsory must be outcome based education. And so in order to make this continuous quality improvement, so QOI, so the innovative assessment and evaluation, so these things will be required for implementing the QOI. And next, so the graduates are not completely prepared for the workforce, we're unable to see the difference between the OBE and then traditional education. So that means the graduates are not completely prepared for the workforce. So due to that, so the OBE plays a very important role here. And so in order to meet this polytechnic transformation plan, so we have to be in order to increase the employability also. So where the rate should be increased to 53 to 85%. And this kind of thing should also be obtained through OBE. And for in order to meet the current scenarios or issues, that means mismatch in supply and demand of graduates. So that's why this OBE is very important in order to meet this all the factors that are needed in uh, any kind of institution. Next, we're going to see what should be the various levels of OBE. And so normally the outcomes are going to be classified into different levels, uh, like program educational objectives and program outcomes and program specific outcomes and then course outcomes. Okay, so normally the outcomes will be different levels. So very first thing should be normal teacher can able to identify what are the course outcomes. So and then program specific outcomes what should be defined and program outcomes and then program educational outcomes should be defined by the institution. So these are the some of the different levels of OBE. So what are the benefits of OBE? So through this OBE, so for the faculty can able to uh, perform innovative teaching, and then creative also. And we should also be feel less pressure, and they can also learn individual thinking and then vision. Okay, so these for the benefits of OBE for the faculty. So we have to be very creative and innovative teaching. So the faculty can also feel less pressure, and they can also learn the individual thinking and vision. So next we are going to see about the what should be the OBE framework. So this OBE should be divided into different modules. So who has to be defined the outcomes, and who has to be define the COs and POs, and how the improvements can be done. So they should we will look at this. So normally the parents and students, industry and professional organizations and professional organizations were able to provide the inputs and the feedback. So this outcomes is going to be divided into different sections. So where the vision and mission is going to be defined by the institution, and this where the program educational outcome should be lies between the student outcomes, like where can able to evaluate the performance indicators and curriculum mapping, and the course is going to be defines the course learning outcomes. So that the course learning outcome should be sent to the course planning and delivery, where we can able to see the syllabus and what kind of teaching methods and what kind of learning activities are going on, and what are assessments and tasks, and finally that should be sent to the course assessment team. Okay, so similarly, the program assessment, if there is any improvements is going on, then again it should be reflect back to this outcomes. And finally, institutional assessment, again if there is any improvement, then should be send it back to the outcomes again. And again, this parent-student feedback inputs are again going to be considered. And finally, all this like this, the assessment and evaluation is going to be improved. So, what are the various steps that is going to be performed on this outcome-based education? So, very first thing should be, first of all, we have to be identify the PEOs and POs. What are the program educational outcomes and program outcomes should be identified, and we have to be map this qualification framework, and that should be sent. And third thing should be linked to the institution vision and mission. So the institution vision and mission should be defined by the institution. So then the next step what we're going to should be creating the subject COs. So once this PUs and PEOs and then institution vision mission COs is identified, then identify the teaching and learning activities, and then match the teaching and learning activities to the assessment, and finally we have to make measure achievement of POs and PEOs, and finally queue back to the CQI. So these are the steps what we're going to be follow here. So the very first thing what should be does. So first of all, we have to identify what are the program educational outcomes and POs, and we have to be move on to the mapping of this national qualification framework. Then we have to be link the institution and vision mission to the above POs and POs, and finally next we have to move to the uh, subject COs, that is shows course outcome should be identified. And next one should be have to be identify the teaching and learning activities, and then finally you have to be match this teaching and learning activities to the assessments, and we have to be measured the achievement of POs, POs, and finally have to be give the feedback to the QUI. So if you look at this detailed process of OBE, so first we have to be plan it and do it and check it out and act on this. Again, if anything is going to be needed, again we have to be replan it. Again, do it, check and act. So this should be the cyclic process where that is going on in OBE. Okay. So very first thing, so first of all, what I have to do, I have to be firstly identify the course syllabus and pedagogies, learning, and then assessment. So once that thing, so check it out with the course, program, and university. This is should be the assessment comes under these two phases, that is do and then check phase, and finally act on that the continuous improvement, learning outcomes, learning activities, and learning assessment, and finally whether all these things should meet this course outcomes, program outcomes, program learning outcomes, program educational outcomes. So okay, CO, so course outcomes, what we call it as, or course learning outcomes. There should be program outcomes or program learning outcomes, and there should be program educational outcomes. Okay, we have to plan it. So again, there should be cycle processes going on. So again, have to be see whether any modifications that is going to perform in course syllabus, pedagogies, learning process, and assessment. So again, we have to be go to the check it out whether the course is properly chained and then not to meet the requirements, and program also, and then university things. So this should be comes under assessment, just now what I said. And for improvement, so again have to be act on this, like we have to be see about learning outcomes, learning activities, and then learning assessment. And next we have to be see what should be the whether all these things COs, POs, and POs meet this or not. So next we'll see what are the characteristics of the curriculum. So here it should have program aims, program learning outcomes, and then course learning outcomes, and the performance indicators. So right, and so it should be it is a objective and outcome driven. So where every stated object and outcome should be assessed and evaluated, and it should be centered around the needs of the students and the stakeholders, and every outcome is should be intentional, so therefore the outcome must be assessed using suitable performance indicators, right? So the characteristics of OB means, so it should have the program aims and program learning outcomes, course learning outcomes, and performance indicator. So these things are very important here. This is also one of the important characteristics of OB curriculum. And next, it should be objective and then outcome driven. So where every stated objective and outcome should be assessed and then evaluated, and it should be centered around the needs of the students and stakeholders. And every learning outcome is essential, therefore the outcome must be assessed using the performance indicators. So what this should be the purpose of OBE? So the purpose of OBE in education means we are able to measure and map all the CO, PO, PO, and PSOs, right? So what should be the COs? COs is nothing but course outcomes. That means you can able knowledge and skills are going to be acquired through course and then curriculum. Okay. So the COs means the course outcome. So where that can be obtained through knowledge and skills that are acquired via the course and curriculum. And next thing, program outcomes. So that means where we can able to expertise the developed after the completion of program. So how much expertise that is going to be developed after the completion of that particular program. And the program educational objectives, that means boarded objectives are going to be identified after completion of the program. So next, so program specific outcomes where the expertise of the graduates of a certain program. Okay, so everything should be linked with the step by step one. So COs should be identified for particular curriculum, the particular course, and PO should be identified. What are the different type levels of POs, program educational outcomes, and how to be identified, and then program specific outcomes where the expertise of the students should be obtained on. So next thing, once these things are going to be known, so next, what is COPO mapping? So the creating the link between the course outcomes and program outcomes. So for each lesson and assessment is called COPO mapping. So whatever the COs we identify, let it be CO2, CO3 and CO3, and similarly are going to have some POs. Okay, so how this each and every CO is going to map with corresponding PO. Similarly, how this CO2 is going to map with PO, like this we have to be perform it. So this link is going to be applied between the COs and POs for each and every lesson assessment is called PO mapping. So normally this one is going to be helpful in encouraging and apply the outcome-based education in schools as well as the colleges. So for attaining the heuristic approach towards the education along with the improved learning outcomes. Okay. So what the OB addresses what type of questions. So for that, what do you want the students to have or able to, what kind of questions that, so what do you want the students to have are able to do, so how can you best help the students achieve it, and how will you know that they are achieved it, and how do you close the loop. So the OB is going to address this kind of questions. So what the students should have or able to do, how can best help the students to achieve it, and how will you know that whether they have achieved it or not, and how do you close that loop. And some of the additional questions where the OB can able to address is who are the stakeholders and what services do we provide, and do the constituencies understand our objectives, and what services, facilities, and policies must be present, and how do you measure our results, and how do you use these results for CQI, and what we achieving our objectives and improving the constituencies satisfied. Okay, so some other additional questions where the OB addresses what are who are the stakeholders, what services do we provide, do the constituencies understand our objectives, and what kind of services, facilities, and policies must be present, and how we're going to measure our results, and how we're going to use these results for CQI, and how we're going to be achieve our objectives and improving all the constituencies satisfied or not. So next, first we have to be identify the department vision. So getting the autonomous status within 2 years and continuous improvement in COs, POs, and POs attainment, and incubate and evaluate, develop at least 3 potential ideas to produce stage per year and spin off the startups, and improving all the faculty qualification to PhD, and establishment of a certain research in the area of power electronics and drives, and 100% of placement. So normally any kind of department going to see all this kind of vision statements. That means getting the autonomous in every 2 years, and continuous improvement in COs, POs attainment, and then should also be establish 3 potential ideas, and should also be improving the faculty qualification and then establishment of research in the area of that's that triple should be, it should be for triple. Then it should be power electronics and drives, and how much of pass percentage and how much of placement. So next we can able to see this program educational outcomes. So for that, if I'm going to take the triple as an example, so intellectual capacity, critical thinking, creativity, and problem solving ability. So let's see the advanced knowledge of this in how it should be in, for intellectual capacity, problem solving, professional skills, engaging research, and like this. So what should be the program outcome? So expected to know and able to perform or attain by the time of graduation, skills, knowledge, and behavior. So that should be treated as the program outcomes. So expected to know and able to perform or attain by the time of graduation, like skills, knowledge, and behavior. So some of these program outcomes look like this, like ability to acquire and apply the fundamental principles of science and engineering, and capability to communicate effectively, and acquisition of technical competence in specialized area of engineering discipline, and ability to identify, formulate, and then model problems and find engineering solutions based on the system approach, and ability to conduct research in this chosen fields of engineering, and understand the importance of the sustainability and cost effectiveness in design and development of engineering solutions, and understanding and commitment of professional ethical responsibilities. So these are the some of the program outcomes what are going to be performed on any kind of education. So some other will be so ability to work effectively as an individual or as a member or a leader in the team, and ability to be a multi-skilled engineer with good technical knowledge, management, leadership, and entrepreneurial skills, and then awareness of social, cultural, and global environmental responsibilities, and the capability and enthusiasm for self-improvement through the continuous professional and lifelong learning. So like this, we can able to define all the 12 POs, and should or have to know the COs, like so what the outcomes that are going to be expected from a certain subject, and these are going to be assessed and evaluated through various measurement tools. So that should be called as learning outcomes. That means the outcomes that is going to be that are to be expected for a certain subject, and how these outcomes are going to be assessed and evaluated through various measurement tools. So if you take some example, some of the engineering college, so for the department of triple, so we can first of all have to be identify what are the various subjects that should be under various years of that BTech course. So once these subjects are going to be identified, then take a particular subject of that any semester or year. So let's I'm taking an example of this one, like CO, CO2, and CO3. Let's take an example of these three. So CO1 they should be ability to understand architecture and develop simple assembly language programming using 8085 processor. This is the one of the CO what I designed here for particular subject, and CO2 I can able to define it as ability to develop 8085 programs using the complex concepts such as lookups, tables, outlines, and understand the basics of 8051 controller like that. And so for this CO3, I can able to define it as ability to understand and configure the commonly used peripherals interface with 8085, 8051, and all of the simple application like this. So then all these three COs are going to map with all the POs what I initially defined and take it out about each and every CO. So how this one is going to be, whether it is going to map with a particular PO and PO or not, and how to be cross check it out. Similarly, I have to see CO2 whether it is mapping with the corresponding PO or not, and CO like this we have to be perform CO PO mapping. And these are the initially defined POs. So this one also to be considered here. Then when it comes to the assessment of this achieving of CO POs and POs, we'll see now. So if you see this overall assessment of this, so the entry students can able to know what are the course learning outcomes of any kind of subject. Okay, so the course learning outcomes should be undergone the students, and that should be sent to as course outcomes. And this course outcomes again subjected to the program outcome. So where the outcome assessment methods are going to be defined, and this program outcomes again, if I'm going to be any remodification or is done in the POs, then we can able to do that, and again have to be resent back to the POs. So POs is going to be defined PO2, PO3, and PO4 like this, and some apply some of the assessment methods on this all POs by performing data analysis. And if any PO is going to be refined in order to meet this, then we have to modify that. And this PO is going to subject to the POs. And finally, where this PE was one able to get it out from the alumni or faculty members and academic peers or professional body members and industrials. So this PE was should get the data from all these stakeholders like alumni, faculty, academic professional bodies, and then industrials. So once the thing, so we have to be check, see the department vision, and finally have to go attaining the college vision and then mission. So this should be the overall process of assessment of all the COs, POs, and a particular kind of college. Okay, so initially the student has to be know the course learning outcome, then that should be sent to the course outcomes, and this course outcomes is defined. Then you have to be look at the program outcomes, and this program outcomes as well as this course outcomes is undergone to the various outcome assessment methods. So where you can able to be perform some of the data analysis part, and that should be redefined and sent it back to the POs. And once the POs is finalized, then we have to be look at this PO where that can be obtained from alumni, faculty members, academic peers, industrial analysts. So once this thing is done, then we have to make use of department vision mission and the college vision mission also. So assessment of achievement of PO. So what are the different types of methods we are going to see now? So for assessment of achieving in POs, we have two types of methods like indirect method and direct method. So indirect method means where that should be implemented through alumni survey or can able to conduct through employability survey. Okay, so alumni survey and employment survey. And for this direct method, we're going to have attainment using PO and PEO mapping. For that should be direct one, and indirect should be alumni or employee survey. And how this individual course assessment is done. So again, this one should be direct one and indirect one. So if it is conducted to the direct, so we have to be performed to theory course assessment and practical course assessment. Indirect way, so course and survey and faculty survey. So direct means you can able to do this theory course assessment and then practical course assessment. Indirect means you can perform through course and survey and faculty survey. And we are going to be attain the POs here. So for this, we also have direct and indirect. For the direct one, CO attainment using CO-PO mapping, and indirect means exists. So like this, we can able to be perform some different types of assessment methods for COs, POs, and POs. So normally this assessment will be direct and indirect. Both ways are available for all this. So direct and indirect also available for COs and for POs and PEOs as well. Okay. Let's see one by one. So how this one direct and indirect. So if you look at this course outcome, initially you have to be conducted to direct and indirect. So just know what I said should be a theory course or it may be a practical course. It should have to be evaluated. And through indirect means we can conduct through course and survey and then faculty survey. So similarly, once the course outcome is assessed, then you have to go for the program outcome. So again, this program outcomes again have two types of things like direct and indirect. So direct means where you can able to attain COs and PO mapping and then done through exit survey. So once this one is done, then again we'll move on to the PO attainment. So for PO attainments, again direct we are able to perform some PO attainment like PO and PO mapping, and for the indirect it should be alumni or employee survey. So these are the steps what we have to be following here. So carefully. So very first thing should be CO attainment, the very first one. So that should be done through direct and indirect. So direct means theory course and practical course assessment. Indirect means course and survey and faculty survey. So the thing is that then we have to move on to the program thing, program outcome. So this program outcome can be attained direct and indirect, where it should be done through CO-PO mapping and exit survey. And for PO attainment, what should we have? So PO and PO mapping should be direct one, and indirect should be alumni and employee survey. So let's take a particular course. How we're going to be attain this CO attainment. So for assessment of COs, we're going to just know what I should is direct one and indirect one, right? So if I'm going to take this direct one, so theory and practical assessment, how I'm going to do. So for assessment methods for direct, what we're going to have should be PT1, PT2, like test and assessment, model exam and university exam. For all this three COs attainment for a particular subject, that will be subject 1. For this particular subject 1, we have to be calculate all this. So if you look at this attainment of course outcomes, so CO1 assessment, assignment and PT1, CO2 assignment and PT2, and CO3 it should be assignment PT3, and those three should be subject to the model exam, so that should be internal exam, and there should be external exam, what we call it as university exam. Finally you can able to attain the particular course. Okay, so like this we can able to attain this CO here. So identify the subject, identify the COs, and apply some of the assessment methods like unit wise and assignments, finally model exam and then university exam. So indirect one, what I said should be here is just now what I should indirect, that should be course and survey and then faculty survey. So the course and survey should be after the end of each and every course, the student has to complete the course and survey to the indirect assess their confidence in attaining the each of the course outcomes. So for this assessment method, where course and survey is to be done. So every semester after the completion, and who are going to be assessed? The student who complete the course, and assessment methodology should be through questionnaire. Okay, the course and survey. So how the course and survey should be conducted? So this course and survey should be conducted. So after the end of every course, asked to complete the course and survey into indirectly assess their confidence in attaining of each course outcomes. So the assessment method should be course and survey. So that should the period should be every semester after the course completion, and assessed by the students who complete the course. An assessment tool should be questionnaire. And for the faculty survey, here after the end of every course, the feedback should be taken from the course instructor about their assessment on each subject in attainment of course outcomes. So the faculty survey, so how this, so every semester after the course completion, and then course instructor and questionnaire. So like this, we have to be perform the course and survey and faculty survey for the students and faculty at the end of every semester. There should be the assessment period, which is going to be assessed by the faculty and students, and tool should be same. That should be the questionnaire. So see here, the example of attainment of course should be CO1, 2, 3, 4, and these are the values that I'm going to get. So after the evaluating that, and then distribution, and then COPO scale is mainly here the target is going to be set, that should be more than 75%, should have 75% of marks. So then COPO scale should be set it out. It should be 1 should be low, 2 should be moderate, and 3 should be strongly related. And the number of students score should be greater than 70%. And here, so once this all the COs, the percentage of attaining each CO should be there, and you have to know the CO result. And next, see how we're going to calculate, see the POs. So these are the POs initially defined for any kind of institution. So how we're going to attain this POs here. So this POs is going to be attained similar fashion like direct and indirect method. So direct means where should be conducted to CO mapping, and indirect means exit survey. So already you know this. So once the COs and POs is mapped, so first one is exit survey, that should be indirect method, and this should be the direct one. So once the COs is attained, we have to be mapped to the corresponding POs. So this POs, once this thing is done, then you have to make use of this exit survey. So exit survey is to be done for the end of the year, and which is going to be assessed by the outgoing students, and it should be the questionnaire tool itself. So the program means that particular program is going to be completed, and that thing should be conducted exit survey in the form, so which should be conducted at end of each period, and that means every year, and it should be done for the outgoing students. So what are the assessment methodologies for this POs? Finally, that should be COPO mapping, and then directly through alumni survey, and then employee survey. So like this, we can able to be assign this assignment is going done for POs and POs, like direct and indirect, alumni survey, and employer survey. So once this the program outcomes are known, we have to be mapped how the program outcomes is going to map with corresponding PO and PSO. Suppose let's take the PO, study this whether this one is going to map with PO 1, 2, 3, 4 or not. So similarly PO 2 should be mapped with. So previously what I conducted should be CO PO mapping. PO1, PO2 and PO3, CO1, CO2 and CO3. this should be CO-PO mapping. So this is the initial, and second step should be PO and PO mapping, right? So this thing, so how we are going to map with CO-PO and PO-PO mapping, for each and every POs you have to be identified. So what is the indirect method? So through we have to be conducted through alumni and employee survey. So this alumni survey is going to be conducted every year. An employee survey should also be conducted. We should going to be assessed by alumni and then employer. Then assessment tool itself, both the questionnaire itself. Okay, so this thing is to be done, and we have to make some rubrics. That should be level 1 should be greater than 80%, level 2, level 3, and level 4 have to be defined some of the rubrics here. And so this alumni survey and the employer survey, so once the student passed it out, then it should be treated as an alumni, and once more than that, it should be employer if any the student is going to be employed in any of the companies or institution. So for that, people have to be conducted for every year and in the form of questionnaire. So like this, we have to be attain the COs, POs, and POs attainment for any kind of outcome education, any kind of institution. So for CO, we have to be conduct through direct and indirect. That should be done through theory and practical, and then course and survey and faculty survey should be the indirect one. So and next one, program outcome should be done through CO-PO mapping and exit survey once the student completed the semester. And PO attainment, that should be done through CO-PO mapping. So that should be indirect, that is alumni and employers. Thank you.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.